So today we're going to be looking at metric conversions. And when I'm talking about the metric system, I'm talking about your meters, your liters, and your grams. Those are the three most basic metric measurements. And in order to tell how large or small they are, we put prefixes at the beginning of each of those different measurements. When I'm converting, I'm going to use the sentence, King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And the most important part of that sentence is the first letter of each of the words. So I need the K from king, the H from Henry, the D from died, the B from by, the D from drinking, the C from chocolate, and the M from milk. And all of these letters stand for a different prefix, and it's going to help me decide what I need to do to my numbers in order to change them from one prefix to another. So we're going to be looking at how to go from kilometers to centimeters, or from milligrams to grams, or centigrams to kilograms. So I need to keep this sentence in mind. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. The K in king stands for kilo, which means 1,000 times larger than the gram. Hecto stands for 100. Deca stands for 10. The base is our basic units, which would be meters, liters, and grams. And that stands for 1. So deci would be 1/10, means I need to divide by 10. Centi means 1 over 100. So there are 100 centimeters in a meter. A millimeter, milli means 1/1000th, so there would be 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. So if I wanted to know how many meters made up a millimeter, well, 1 millimeter is 1/1000th, and 1 meter would be 1/1000th of a millimeter. I'm sorry, 1 meter would have 1,000 millimeters. So that is how I'm going to remember. And what I'm going Okay, so now after we've looked at the meanings of all these different ones, we're going to be deciding how to solve. And every time I solve, I need to keep this sentence in mind. This King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And I don't need to write down the whole thing. I just need my K, H, D, B, D, C, and M. I just need the first letter of each sentence. So if I have 1.87 liters and I want to know how many milliliters that is, I know it's milli because it's got an M, and my capital L stands for liter. So every single time I'm going to think about my King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. So currently I'm at the liter, and my liters live at the base, which is where my meters, liters, and grams are. So I'm starting off at my liters. Now I want to go to milliliters. I want to know how many milliliters are in a liter. Well, since milliliters are really small, they're over here, smaller than the smaller than the liters. These would be larger than the liters. I'm going to have a lot more milliliters in 1 liter. So I'm moving over to this milliliter. And since it's 1,000, I'm hopping over 3 places, 3 place values. So a milliliter is 1,000 times smaller, which means that my number is going to have to be 1,000 times larger, because a liter is much smaller than, a liter is much larger than a milliliter. So there's going to be a lot of milliliters in 1 liter. And we know already that it was 1,000 times difference from the liter to the milliliter. So I'm going to take my 1.87 and I'm going to make it 1,000 times larger. Now notice that I started here and I moved 3 places to the right. I'm going to do the same thing with my decimal since this is a base 10 system. I'm going to move my decimal 3 places to the right in order to multiply by 1,000. So my new decimal point drops in here. I have a 0 as the placeholder, and now I have 1,800 70 milliliters. And that makes sense to me because I know that milliliters are really small. So if I've got a big liter and I've got to fill it with a bunch of little milliliters, there's got to be a lot of them. Okay, the next one. I've got 3,000 meters equals how many kilometers? So I'm going to write out my letters. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And I'm starting off at the meters, which is once again at the base. So here's where my meters are, and I'm going to kilometers. Now, kilometers are much larger than meters. So I'm going to have all of my meters grouped together to make a kilometer. So there's going to be less kilometers than there are meters. So if I have to go from meters at the B to kilometers, I move to the left 3 places. 1, 2, 3, which means my decimal point also moves to the left. Now at 3,000, when I look at it, I don't see a decimal point right away. But we all know it's there. It could be 3,000.0. We just don't put that 0.0 on the end because it's a waste of time. So I know that my decimal point always sits right after my whole number. So if I move it to the left, 1, 2, 3, and drop it in, now I've got 3.0. And so since kilometers are much smaller than meters, it makes sense to me that there are less kilometers than there are meters because it took 1,000 meters to make 1 kilometer. Okay, 35.7 kilograms. I want to know how many grams is that. So once again, I think about my mnemonic device. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And I'm currently at the kilograms. I need to go to grams, which is at my base. So I moved to the right. How many spaces? Hopefully you were thinking 3. So I'm going to take my decimal point and I'm going to move it to the right 3 places. So I'm just going to move 1, 2, 3. What goes in these holes? Hopefully you're thinking zeros. So I've got 3, 5, 7, 0, 0. And I can put the decimal point in, but I really don't need it. So I can just erase it. And my comma would go here. So this is 35,700 grams. Let's try another one. 267 milliliters equals how many liters? So once again, I write out my mnemonic device. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. I've got 267 milliliters. I need to go to liters. So I'm starting at my M for milliliter, and I'm going to the left. 1, 2, 3. So I take my decimal point, which is that imaginary decimal point that can sit after the whole number, and I'm going to which direction? The left. 1, 2, 3. So my decimal point goes in front of the 2, and now I have 267 hundredths of a liter. Okay, 35 hundredths of a kilometer is equal to how many centimeters? What do you think I'm going to do first? King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. You should be writing this sequence out every single time, just kind of as a little cheat sheet to you. And as you go on, maybe you won't need to write it out and you can do it in your head. So I'm at kilometers, and now I'm going to centimeters. I'm making a bigger jump. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 decimal places to the right. So I'm going to take my current decimal and I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. I fill in my empty spaces with zeros, and now this becomes 35,000 centimeters. Think you're catching on yet? This is our last one for the video, and then you're done. I'm sure you're thankful at this point. Okay, I'm going to type out King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. And I'm going to start at the number that I'm given, which is 4.5 meters. Meters sit at my base. That's my meters, my liters, and my grams. Oops, my G is a little crazy. So I'm starting at the meters. I'm going to the centimeters, which is right here. So I'm going over 1, 2 different places. So I take my 4.5. I look down here. I started out here and I went to the right. So my decimal point is going to move now 1, 2 places to the right. My 0 fills the hole. It's the placeholder. And I know that it equals 450 centimeters. Okay. Thank you for watching, and I will see everybody tomorrow.